Hello and welcome back, guys. We have a really cool video today. I am reviewing the Mr. Volcano forge. I got this off of Amazon. It was like $135 at the time. Don't know what it's going for right now, but pretty cool forge for what you get. It's kind of a kit deal, so let's get into it. Okay, so the Mr. Volcano forge. Right off the bat, let me explain some things about this. This is not a ready assembled forge. You can't just take this out of the box, put it up, and then fire it and start forging. It's going to take you probably, I found, about 48 hours at minimum, if everything's the correct temperature, for this to be together. I would probably recommend more like 4 days to fully assemble this thing. Now, the reason for that is because of the dry times on your hardeners. And that'll of course depend on the humidity, atmospheric values, and everything else going on with where you live. So for me, it's winter right now. I had to do this in the house. It took me about 48 hours to get the red hardener to be solid, and then it took another 48 to 36 hours to get the actual Satanite to harden up. So this comes as a kit, as I said. The main parts you have to assemble are all the burners up here, put all the lines together, put the regulator on, and then connect it to your valves, and then we get into that actual hardening process. So when you get this forge, unfortunately I don't have pictures of it, but you get what looks like a white sheet of, looks like wool kind of with it. And that's actually a type of, not fiberglass, but some type of very heat resistant insulation. It'll say what it is, but I don't remember because it's basically the key is don't touch it with your bare hands because it has these little barbs on it that if they go into your hand, won't come out, it'll start working their way deeper. So it comes with that insulation. Now what you have to do is put on some rubber gloves, wrap that insulation on the inside, then spray it with the red hardener mix. The red hardener mix will take about 48 hours to harden, and then you get to coat it with the Satanite coating, which is the finish you can see here, which is that gray solid coating that you see in the forge. And overall, the process is really tricky to get it to look right, I found, and get everything applied correctly so that it mixes right and just gets on and ends up looking decent. Now, is this a problem? Depends on if you're going for looks. If you're going for looks, odds are you may not get it looking perfect. I tried really hard and I did kind of an okay job with it. If you're looking for function, don't worry about it, put it on, it should be fine, is what I decided to do in the end. And overall, I'm happy with it. It's only $135 for a 2-burner forge, so you have to do some work in there at some point to account for the savings. Now let's get into the other things it comes with. It comes with 2 fire bricks, which are useful. However, I did purchase a couple extra bricks, one for the back of it to have it hold more heat. As it's winter right now, you can probably see how much vapor is coming out of my mouth as I talk. It is really cold in here, probably down in the 20-degree zone in the shop. I also got these 2 burners with it, obviously, all the attachment mechanisms. But enough of me talking, let's get into firing this up so I can show you guys how to actually start this forge. So the first step is going to be to turn on the 40-pound propane bottle, which I've already done. Then I've got to turn on the regulator, which I'm going to do right now. That'll send pressure up to these valves. Then I'll light the newspaper on the inside. Once the newspaper is lit, I'll turn first one valve, then the other valve on, which will allow the furnace to actually light. Once it's lit, it'll get warmer in here for me, but you probably won't be able to hear me, so I'll have to go to voiceover. Let's do this and I'll show you how it works. So first off, we're going to turn on our regulator here. Regulator's on. Now I'm going to take my lighter, I'm going to light the newspaper I've placed on the inside. Assuming my lighter works. You can do this with a blowtorch, but it's a bit riskier. Okay, here we go. And now the forge is lit. So you can see I've got my forge running. It's already heating up in here. And what I can do now is adjust the flow and turn on my second. Now that the forge is heated up, I can go ahead and stick some metal in there and actually start doing something. So, for example, we'll stick one of these pieces in here. Show you guys how fast it takes for that to warm up. Now that the forge is heated up, I can show you the red hot metal. Pretty cool. Nice and hot. Bring it over to my anvil. As you can see, I've started to smash that down just a little bit. Now obviously it would take a lot more time to do that and actually make something, which I'm not going to do in this video. I'll do that in my next one where I show you making my second pair of tongs. My first pair of tongs, I'm happy to say, was a success. The next set of pair of tongs I'm going to be making is going to be an angled pair of tongs, and that'll help me do other projects down the road. So, now we've had this running for a little bit, let me show you guys how to turn it off. Forge is pretty easy to turn off. First off, I'm just going to turn off the back burner. There we go. And then I'm going to turn off the actual bottle of the propane down at the base so that it gets all of that out of the lines and it's not under pressure. Closed real quick. Now the forge is off. I'm going to turn off my regulator. And finally, turn off the last valve. So, enough fun in the shop. Let's get down to the wrap up here at the end of the video. Right now, my opinion of this forge is that it's a great value for the money at $135. It's unbeatable. You can't go and buy the equipment needed to build this forge as cheap as you can actually buy it. So that's the one reason I actually ended up buying it, and I'm very, very happy with it for what I'm doing, for getting an intro to blacksmithing. The biggest downside is definitely the installation and the assembly time. The assembly time is pretty long. It's going to take about 2 days minimum, probably 3 or 4 days to get this assembled if you do it correctly. It's just one of those things where you have to go slow and make sure you get it right, make sure it's dry and everything's good. So a little bit of downside with the assembly time. The safety factor too is something to be aware of. If you're not used to making something, you need to take your time, take your safety precautions, wear your gloves, wear your eye protection, wear a respirator, because that insulation is something you don't want to mess with. You don't want to get those fibers stuck in your skin and have them burrow their way in for the rest of perpetuality, basically. That's not a good thing. However, I had no issues. I wore a lot of big laundry gloves when I was doing this, or dish gloves, and I wore a nice respirator, and overall wasn't too bad. I did have some issues with the insulation tearing, however. One thing that I did find out getting into blacksmithing that I didn't know is anvils. Anvils cost more than the forge actually costs. So if you're thinking this is going to be your biggest expense in blacksmithing, it's not. The anvil is going to cost more. A good anvil will cost you from around $165 all the way up to thousands of dollars is what I found. Even on the used market around here, to get a decent sized anvil is around $365 in my area, which is crazy to think about it. I never realized anvils were so expensive. So if you're getting into blacksmithing, keep that in mind. The forge may not be your most expensive piece of equipment. Other than that, overall, I'm enjoying using it. The work area itself is a little bit small. You've got maybe 2 to 3 inches of height when you put a fire brick into the furnace. So for knife making and stuff, it's good. For what I'm doing, just screwing around learning blacksmithing, it's pretty good height-wise. Definitely, I would kind of want something bigger if I were going to do this long-term, because it's a little bit hard to get the tongs in there when you've got the fire brick and you only have a little bit of clearance to work with. But other than that, it's a great forge. And the one thing I will say as well, I've been running it on one burner. for the smaller projects and only firing it up on 2 burners for the larger projects, which means that I get a lot more burn time out of each tank of propane. So, that being said, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to subscribe. I appreciate every single one of my subscribers. Leave me a comment below with your questions, or maybe you've got an opinion on this forge you'd like to share with me, or ideas for me to blacksmith. I'm new to blacksmithing. I'm looking for things to build, ideas, projects, and I'm just having fun with it. It's what I do on this channel. I explore life, and I try to learn as much as I can and try out new things. So there you have it. That's enough for one day. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see all of you in the next episode. Have a fantastic day. Patriot Contraptions, signing out.